Hello everybody, it's Mica. Welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to be again returning to gaming. And I have a huge love-hate relationship with video games because no matter how much I don't want to admit it, all games have something good about it and all games have something bad about them. There's just no getting around it. So it doesn't sound like I'm fanboying about a particular game or genre. I decided that, hey, I'm going to stick with this love-hate angle. So whenever I'm talking about a game or reviewing a game, for every like I give you, I'm going to give you a dislike and vice versa. As this is the first time I'm going to be doing this love-hate angle, I decided to talk about Far Cry 5. Mostly because I just finished playing it and it's fresh on my mind. The best place to start is going to be with the story, and that's because the story is what drew me to this game thanks to Ubisoft's amazing advertising campaign, and it's something I really loved and really hated about Far Cry 5, because what we have in the story is really good. Joseph Seed and his lieutenants John, Jacob, and Faith have great backstories that show you how they went from being average everyday people to leaders of a vicious and terrifying cult. We have everything from delusions that come from trying to cope with tragedy to a vulnerability stemming from drug and psychological abuse and how it's subsequently taken advantage of. They tackle some important issues outside the main terrorist cult story, which really causes you to sympathize with these horribly evil people. And that's also something I didn't like. And it's not because I sympathize with them or because of the topics, but because they just did so little with them. The backstories of the Seed family are by far the most interesting parts of the story, hands down. But all they do is give us these little bits and pieces of it. There's so much potential in what could have been done and said, and this game tells such a good story but leaves you wanting more because they just don't give you enough of it. This is the type of game that could honestly be made into a series of novels, but the game itself would be nothing but Cliff's Notes. I mean, it's so good, but it's so disappointing at the same time. But let us move on to gameplay and quests, because in my opinion, this game handles really well. When you aim at something, you hit it. Jumping, swimming, swinging on ropes, these are all handled really well. And even though the game's in first person, I had none of my usual issues with vertigo, which was great. There's a decent array of weapons, and while not all of them are useful, I always have what I needed for any situation. And they let you use explosives in really fun and creative ways. There is some redundancy in quests, but honestly, that's just to be expected. I mean, this is a huge game, and you can only do so much with variation. The quests themselves, though, range from your standard fetch or kill quests, some are collection quests, and some are just fun and pure silliness. And none of them require you to play a certain way. You can tackle them with stealth or guns blazing. I mean, whatever your playstyle is, it's feasible. I myself am a stealth player, and it was insanely fun doing something like taking down the giant statue of Joseph Seed without ever being discovered. There's a glaring downside to quests, however, and that's because if you do a certain amount, you're going to be forced into the next story quest. The big bad of the region is going to send a group of cultists to hunt you down and take you by force, and that leaves you no option but to fight. And this really wouldn't be a bad thing, but the story quests are just so easily triggered as you move throughout the map. I mean, every person you save, every outpost you clear, you get closer and closer to that inevitable fight. And as a story element, this is not a bad thing. I mean, you do enough damage, you're going to have to face retribution. It just happens so fast, and once that boss of the zone is down, the zone becomes virtually clear of cultists. They're no longer roaming the wilderness, they're no longer driving around the roads. I mean, they just basically disappear from everywhere that does not involve an incomplete quest, which just makes the world bland and boring. So the remaining quests, and there's going to be a whole lot of them, just become kind of meh, without the added danger of roaming baddies. As you travel around saving the day, you're going to eventually start unlocking companions, each with their own personality and fighting style. Whether it's Nick Rye flying above, or just Black creeping along in the shadows, or just Herc Drubman, I don't know, being Herc, I don't know how to describe him. But each one will bring something to the table, and by mixing and matching these characters, you can complement any playstyle and sometimes add some pretty hilarious banter. And this goes with most NPCs in the game. I mean, everyone is voice acted and everybody has something to say, even people you pass by that are just roaming the wilds of Hope County. And as a huge dog person, as I mentioned in other videos, I also loved all the dogs in this game. And even the cultist dogs won't attack you if you take the cultist down with stealth. And even if you don't, you can always just run away. So you don't have to kill a single dog if you don't want to. And I don't. And if you use Boomer, the adorable little pupper companion, you can heal him by rubbing his little belly. I mean, that alone just makes me go all puppy voice as I play. So the game has tons of life and personality. And that just makes the cultists look so much worse because the cultists are so boring. I mean, at least outside the lieutenants. They just have nothing good to say. They all look the same, fight the same. By the time you get through the first few missions, you fought all there is to fight. So it's simply just repeat. If there's one in an army helmet, you know to shoot the helmet off and then do a headshot. A flamethrower, aim for the fuel pack. Bald guy with a beard, he's a melee, just take him down before he gets to you. Angels, headshot. I mean, there's no variation in enemies. They could have done so much with these people, even if it was just random idle conversation while you're sneaking up behind them. But there's nothing. I mean, you help one escape from the cult, so we know there's cultists who don't agree with the Seed's tactics and they still have their own thoughts and ideas. And they could have gone so far with this, but nothing. But let's move on to something else that's good. And this one's going to be really quick, and that is the visuals, because this game is beautiful. I play on PC, so I didn't experience the level of pop-ins that were apparently a big complaint for the console version. But yeah, I mean, everything was so nicely done. I sometimes caught myself just stopping and looking around, or watching a sunset from atop a tower or a hill, and I generally never do that in a game. The bad part about the visuals is not really how things looked, but just the fact that there was such a lack of landmarks. I mean, outside the giant statue of Joseph Seed and the Yespeel board, there was just nothing really there to orient you, so you really had to rely a lot on your world map. So I just spent a lot of my time cutting away from the visuals around me and going to my map. My last favorite thing is actually the music, because I kept it on the Cultist radio station, I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, because they did a great job on the soundtrack for this game. If the Seed family used music to gain their following, I can totally see why it worked. I mean, I found myself singing along constantly, and even singing these songs to myself as I drove around town in real life. The only thing I have to say that would be bad about the music is just how catchy it is. I've been playing this game again to filming for this video, and I know it's going to be at least a week, probably 2, before I stop singing these songs again. But that is all I have for Far Cry 5. Even with all these dislikes, I still really enjoyed this game, so I definitely recommend it. And they did release some DLC, which I have not played yet, so I cannot comment on, and I believe it was the week of this recording that they released an HD texture pack for PC players, so they're not completely done with it yet. If you have any games that you think I should give a love-hate thing on, or just talk about in general, make sure you leave them in the comments below, because I'm always looking for new games to play. If you enjoy this video, make sure you like and subscribe, as I do release new videos at least once a week. And if you want to follow me on social media, everything is linked below. But as usual, it's been a hoot, and until next time, have fun.